How's it going, everybody? Tyler with LMR.com. Today we are back with episode 5 of Keeping Calm. If you haven't checked out the first 4 episodes of Keeping Calm, I highly suggest you go and get brought up to speed with the current progress. We got the car stripped down, got it off to paint, got all of the body panels lined up, fresh coat of competition orange paint, looks immaculate. We've got the engine bay all cleaned up, got the undercarriage done, got the wheel wells done. It's looking great. Now it's time to go into the interior. Over the past 17 years, this interior has definitely seen better days. Texas sun, 180,000 miles, definitely has taken its toll. The leather's all ripped up. The seat foam is just wasted. The body panels need to be cleaned up. The carpet needs to be replaced. Just about everything is going to need to be looked at, either replaced or restored on this car.
From the carpet to the seat foams to the interior panels.
As you've seen in previous episodes, we got the interior all taken out. It's ready for everything to go back into it now.
All right, so when it came to the interior, this topic was pretty easy. Basically restore the car exactly how it was in 2004, with the exception of what we like to call some OE plus upgrades and modifications. So with the thought process of cleaning, preparing and painting our interior components, the dash did come out of the car. While the dash was out of the car, this gives you an outstanding opportunity to assess and research and make sure everything behind the dash is the way you want it.
While we were in there, we just went ahead and put a new heater core in there, checked all the vacuum lines across the back of the dash, but more of a preventative measure, but we wanted to go ahead and pull the dash just to make sure that everything behind there was in good shape. Having the dash out of the car can be beneficial overall, especially like I mentioned with the heater core. You never want to have to do that job with the seats in the car or the console. If you've already got everything pulled out, that's just really the opportune time to go ahead and do that procedure.
If you're gonna pull a dash, 100% do a heater core, especially if the car has some miles on it.
In the past, I pulled a couple Fox body dashes, and as everybody knows, those are not fun. The SN dash really was not bad at all. We do have an instructional video showing you how to do that, and we really break down how simple it is overall to do. Don't be scared at a project like this, especially taking those extra steps whenever it comes to the preventative measures like we took with the heater core and everything else. I mean, you're already that far into it, you might as well do some extra steps like that.
We had the opportunity to chase the check engine light. If I recall correctly, there was an error for the fuel rail pressure sensor. Scott Hubbard, the guy's extremely talented. He puts on his detective cap and starts checking wires, checking harnesses. And I would say probably about 2 to 3 hours into his detective work, he finally found the culprit. One of the body harnesses that contained wiring to and from the fuel pump, including the fuel rail pressure sensor. Basically, the circuit that was within that section of harness, there was a pretty heavy chase. Some wires were damaged, were melted, and luckily enough, Hubbard had a donor car sitting in his yard. We go over to his house, we pull that entire harness out, bring it back to the shop, take the harness out of the orange car here, and put the new harness in hopes that would fix our check engine light. Well, after we got all that harness situated, we put power to it, and there you go. Check engine light was fixed. I know any of you that have tried to diagnose electrical issues or electrical gremlins, you know how big of a win that is when you figure that out.
When we started to address the interior, everything was pretty much taken out of it, including like your interior quarter trim panels, all the B pillars, A pillars, everything was removed at that time when we got it. So we opted to go ahead and take the headliner and replace it, along with the carpet and the seats. It had seen some weather and really wasn't salvageable at that point. The headliner had a few ash marks or cigarette burns across the top section, like if you were going out the window.
Put a brand new headliner in it. That was kind of a chore, to be honest with you. Headliners, they're never really fun to work with, but hey, we got a great group of guys around this building, so we leaned on our resources and we got it done.
We went ahead and put all new hardware where we could, everything along with the headliner, including the dome light. We went ahead and replaced that at this time.
We decided to go with new carpet.
Fresh, dark charcoal carpet.
The old carpet that was in there was disgusting. It was the same factory carpet that's been in it for 17 years.
Had a lot of wear and tear to this carpet. You really had a lot of the aftermarket stereo system tucked underneath there. A majority of the jute backing from the factory was pretty much ripped out, and we really just couldn't salvage it at all. So we had to take everything out of the car, including the console, all the seats, and fully replace the carpet front to rear.
But before we did the carpet, we did have to take out some, I'm just gonna call it questionable stereo work. We got all that stuff out of the way.
Some of the tricks were having the old carpet handy, laying that on top of the new carpet, really getting a general mock-up of where I needed to cut, including like the shifter hole, your e-brake handle, all the seat bolt locations. Everything across the board just made it so much easier when it came to doing the initial cut. You still have a lot of fine cuts that you have to do when it gets laid into the car, but overall that's one of the biggest tricks of the trade, is having that old carpet there to really have a mirror image for the new carpet. We did set the carpet outside for about 24, 48 hours, let this Texas sun kind of bake it a little bit to make it a little bit more malleable, just for maneuverability as well as being able to cut it a little bit easier. Overall though, ACC makes a great product. You really can't go wrong with their product. Cutting it, fitment across the board from side to side, front to rear, it really fit like a glove whenever we did lay it in. The original carpet in this car was very, very faded. It looked like it had some juice spillage or some sodas in the back, possibly some kids back there that had plenty of food and beverage that had poured into it over the years. We might have gotten away with a good steam cleaning, but overall you just can't go wrong with just replacing the carpet, especially on this old of a vehicle and especially for a restoration project.
The new carpet makes the whole interior look awesome. So anybody who's been in one of these two valves that has some mileage on it knows how quickly these seats wear out. The framing that's in the seat pokes you right in the ass, really uncomfortable. All of the leather on the side bolsters always comes off. When I bought the car years ago, the little pony was painted orange, was one of the things I hated the most. I had to paint over it with some automotive paint at the time, which wore off and came back to haunt me when we picked up the car.
When it comes to the front and rear seats, they put a hurting on them. There were multiple tears, multiple rips, possible burns, maybe cigarettes, that kind of thing. Front to rear, it was just a mess when it came to the upholstery.
So when we took off the rear upholstery, there was a hole in the seat foam
that really couldn't fix. So we had to reach out to a salvage yard and go ahead and find a good rear seat bottom to go back in there with. Everything else though, the hardware on all the seats, all the plastics, seat motor itself, everything was in fairly good shape.
And as far as seat selection goes, we could have went back with the factory GT style seats, but just like anybody else would, we went and did an upgrade.
We opted for the Mach 1 upholstery in this car.
Personally, I like the Mach 1 upholstery the best, especially in GTs.
That upholstery is just tried and true. You can't go wrong with it. It's very stylish, very classic.
The aggressive bolstering on the sides and the seat bottom kind of holds your thighs in, of course, you know, kind of holds your kidney area in as well.
Very aesthetically pleasing too. Just the silver stripe that goes across the center. You really can't go wrong with it.
This is one of those upgrades that just about every GT owner wishes that they could do. We got the seat foam, the upholstery front and rear, and it's a great OEM plus look. So with these new Edge cars, there's a lot of interior pieces that just aren't produced in the aftermarket. It's really hard to find. Either they get sun faded from sitting in a junkyard, or they get
random holes drilled in it for whatever reason. They had some scuffs.
Or they get painted, or something happens to them to where they're just not salvageable. A few of the panels that we had were not savable. They were not available in the aftermarket. We currently don't sell them. It was something that you would have to get from either a local junkyard or from somebody else who was selling it. So for the parts that we needed, we had a local friend that actually used to work for the company who parts these cars out from time to time. He had every piece that we needed from, I believe, a Cobra at the time.
We used the opportunity to go ahead and buy it and just pretty much replace all the interior that was in this car with all the interior from the takeout car.
They just needed a little bit of cleanup, and they installed right as we needed them.
Put a Mach 460 system back in it,
which I really love. I'm not a huge fan of aftermarket stereos, especially in these cars. So two of the most commonly worn items is going to be your shift knob and your steering wheel. Those are two places that we did address in this car. We went with one of our direct replacement shifter knobs and
our SVE FR500 steering wheel.
It definitely gave the car a great new look.
Our cup holder insert, instrument cluster lens.
The gauge cluster that came in the car when we purchased it back got a classic retro style look, but it did need a new instrument cluster lens on it. So Landon went ahead and got that replaced, and looks like it's brand new now.
Multifunction switch went in the car because the one that was in this car, it wouldn't activate the blinkers all the way. Plus, not to mention, it was too far gone. We tried to clean it, we tried to refurbish it, we couldn't do it. Lock and unlock switches, window switches. We did the Ford Racing Mach 1 or bullet style pedals, which is that brushed aluminum face with the rubber pads, which really kind of was the icing on the cake down there on the floorboard area. We also did brand new floor mats. Pretty much everything was addressed.
So when I picked up the car, when we first purchased it, I was pretty sad to see the interior the way it got.
I remember the day that we pulled that car off the trailer and how bad a shape it was in.
I mean, it wasn't perfect when I owned the car, but it definitely wasn't in that type of condition. So when I got in there, I sat in the seats and it was just like sitting on a concrete block and then seeing all of the
cigarette butts, there was trash, there was just human filth.
Having that interior completely stripped down, including the dash, steering column, console, everything out of the car, and then just putting it back together piece by piece across everything. It made me feel very accomplished whenever it came to seeing it go from bare bones all the way back to a complete product.
Stepping inside the car, it looks just brand new.
It smells new. I don't know if it exactly smells like the car did in 2004, but hey,
you can't get any better than that.
It's an outstanding place to be. All right, people. Well, we've come to the finish line on episode 5, consisting of the interior, and we can finally check that box off of our list.
The interior looks amazing. Couldn't have asked for anything better. The Mach 1 seats, the new carpet, all of the panels getting all cleaned up. It looks like the car just rolled off the showroom floor. I can't thank the team enough for knocking out this interior. Landon, Hubbard, Will, Jay, all had a good hand on the interior restoration. It looks brand new.
So still to come with Keeping Comp, obviously we still have to address the exterior. We have a few upgrades in mind related to the brakes and the wheels. And of course we have our final synopsis and conclusion for Keeping Comp.
So stay tuned for episode 6. We've got a lot of cool stuff still coming out. So make sure you turn on notifications, click that subscribe button.
Like the video, and until we see you in the next one, you know what to do for all things new Edge Mustang. Keep it right here with the real enthusiasts.
LMR.com.